What up? All right, to be straight up with you guys, I was a little hesitant to do this video. And the reason why is because I have a lot of people who are trying to look for anything that they can get in order to use it against me. And so with that, talking about my past and things that I've done in my past, I've always wanted to be more shy about, but I kind of realized that it's not my duty or responsibility to go into the past and change the things in the past that I've done, because I don't have that ability. My only responsibility is to be, just honest and straightforward, and to be faithful in teaching the gospel to people. And so that's what I'm going to continue to do. But I think that there's a good lesson in this that I think is probably important for a lot of people. So that's why I decided to go ahead and go forth with the video. So when you get old like me, it's my old age, with age comes wisdom, right? At least we hope. So I decided to do a video about some of the things that if I could go back to tell my younger self, that I would go tell my younger self. And those are some things that I would like for my son to know, so he can, both of my sons, so when they grow up, they can watch this video, and if it can benefit you in any way, then that's great. So I have an identical twin brother, for those that don't know. And so by the way, so all of these things that you're going to hear about that I've done in the past, it was him. No, I'm just kidding. But I do have an identical twin brother, for real. And we're very, very different when it comes to what we believe is true. And so maybe one day, by God's grace, we will be on the same page. But as things stand today, we have entirely different belief systems. Our entire worldview is actually different. The way we come to think and approach things is way different. But I was talking to him on the phone last week, and he said something that really kind of made me think. He said, all everybody wants ultimately is happiness. He said, what everybody's trying to get is happiness. And when everybody looks at their life being perfect, they see themselves as being very, very happy. And my instinct was to want to agree with this, right? Because that sounds right. But when I thought about it for myself, I was like, I don't think that's true for me. I said, when I picture my life optimally, I picture myself content, kind of like how I feel now. I just picture myself being content, and also and even if I don't have contentment, then I picture being happy in the aspect that I was a faithful servant. So even if that, requires torture or whatever else, so maybe happiness isn't the right word. Instead, I'd say something more like peace, the biblical way that peace is described. So that's how I picture myself in the future. And I started thinking about why we're different. And I think one of the possible reasons why we think so different is, in my past, I spent a lot of time chasing happiness. And for me, that was women, to be straight up with you. I never was into drugs or drinking or anything like that. Instead, for me, it was chasing women. So I realized that I would think, like, for example, if I just had this type of girl, then I'd be happy. That's when I'd be happy, right? And so what I kind of learned in time was, each time that I would catch whatever I thought was going to be the thing that would make me happy, I would raise the bar to something else. Then I'd say, well, if I had just these type of women, this type of women, or if I had this amount of women, or if I've had these different body types, or if I had these different whatever, then I'd be happy. And the bar kept changing. And what I realized was, every single time that I would catch one of these things, then it would make me happy for a little bit. But soon enough, the feeling wears off. And then not only does it take away that happiness when it leaves, but it also takes away more than it started with. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I find myself to be more empty and less happy after those things left. So what that showed me was, all of these things that we consider are going to make us happy, whether it be a new job or a career or the perfect wife or the perfect marriage or the perfect husband or living in a new state, whatever it is, these things make you happy for a little bit, but that happiness is not going to be lasting forever. And so people always say all the time, they're like, you can't buy happiness, money, sex, and power. You can never get enough of these things to be content. But if people, and this is true, but if people are skeptics and stubborn like me, you have to go through it to sometimes to be able to truly believe it, right? Because I just didn't believe him. I was like, no, I think I'd be happy with this, but you don't really know it until you get it. And I think a lot of people see money that way. They think money and fame and all these things, you'll be happy with once you get it. And then a lot of people will tell you, they're like, it doesn't make you happy, right? Happiness is an inside job to some degree. But what I kind of found was, whenever I would place my happiness on these things, if I say, I'll be happy if I get this, I become a slave to those things. So not only is my happiness dependent upon getting these things, but once I get it, and then once it's gone, then it takes my happiness with it. So in that way, you're a slave to these things. So because of that, I think that, for me, I think that we don't want our foundations to be on these things that are some sort of feeling, because feelings come and go, right? Just like I said. So if we have our foundations and our core value and worth or our identity on these things, then these things will change and they'll take it with, So for example, if your happiness is just in a person, well, people die, right? And then, or people are unreliable, or they'll let you down. And so if your happiness is on these things, then it's not going to be consistent. So I think you get the point. But where a changing point for me is I remember, so pretty much I was wilding out until, I don't know, from my preteen years all the way up until closer to when I got married, and what I realized is that for me, a changing point was when I read through the Gospels once again, because I haven't read through them for a while. And I read through the Gospels once again, and then something just clicked in my mind. I started thinking, I started looking at the passages on marriage, and I started coming across those and started thinking about them more. And I realized that on the Christian view, marriage is not, you don't marry somebody so that way they can make you happy, right? And that sounds so counterintuitive, because in our culture, that's exactly why you get married. You get married if they make you happy. If they stop making you happy, then you're justified in getting a divorce, right? But the Christian idea of marriage is not like that at all. It's not dependent on these things. Because in marriage, and if you're married, you probably know, there's nothing that brings out the worst in you like marriage, right? And it can bring out the best in you too. But the point is that, like, your worst sides, the worst you will be exposed during marriage, and if your commitment is dependent on a feeling, your feeling is going to change. So if you're saying, if this person's not going to make me happy, then I'm justified in leaving. That's the wrong way to look at it, because that's not what, at least the biblical understanding of marriage is. So on the biblical understanding of marriage, we don't get married to make ourselves feel better or to make ourselves happy or anything like that. These things can be a consequence of staying true to a commitment. And that's another issue. But really what it is we get married to serve one another, and we get married to understand the gospel a little bit better. And that's why the gospel is always identified with marriage too, by the way, because what if Jesus and God, their forgiveness was based upon our emotions, or some emotions of some sort. If we do bad or something, then Jesus decides to not forgive us for anything, and then, anything like that, then we'd be in some serious trouble, right? And so marriage is going to be some sort of a mirror of that type of love. And so I realized that I always told myself, I was like, I've been so selfish. I was, not wanting to get, married and all this or whatever. And I'm only thinking about myself, you know what I mean? But I'm like, that's not how Christ wants me to live. He doesn't want me to just think about myself. He wants me to think about others and to love others. So the greatest commandments that Jesus says is to love God and love others. And loving is serving a lot of the time, So in marriage, when you love someone, you want to do what's best for that person, And so I realized that was just like this changing point in my mind where everything just went, it was just different at that point, and it just clicked for me. And so that's when I made a lot of life changes at that point. But the moral of the story, I think the thing that everybody can take away from it is that you want to place your value or whatever on something that's very, very solid and that does not change. And as a Christian, that's definitely found in Jesus Christ, because I believe that it's not just a feeling. That's not the reason why I'm a Christian. It's not because I had some feeling or some sort of, I don't know, some like my life is better because I became a Christian or anything like that, because I'd argue that we have no reason to think our lives will be better when we become Christians. It's not about that. I'm a Christian because I believe it's true, and I believe that there's good reasons to believe that Christianity is objectively true. This doesn't mean just true for you and not true for other people. Christianity is not some sort of therapeutic system at its core. It's not that like you become a Christian because it's a moral system and you can be a good person, because people can become better people in that way in different systems, and so then when people say they don't need Jesus, they might be thinking, I don't need Jesus because I'm becoming a better person by being a Buddhist or something else. But that's not what Christianity is about. Christianity, first and foremost, is true. It's a true statement about the world and how the world really is. So with that, knowing that I can trust these things, I think that there's really good reason to believe in the historicity of the Gospels and the Bible, and also in the resurrection. And because of that, my faith is not placed, and my foundation is not placed in that. And then my identity also moves. So my identity is not in something that can change, like a career change, a job change, a marriage change, anything like that. My identity is in what Jesus has done for me, not anything that I've done, right? Because if it was on me for me to earn my own salvation, I for sure would, I wouldn't make it. But it's all about what Christ has done. So because of that, I can't feel arrogant. I can't feel better than other people. I can't, because it's nothing about what I've done. The only thing I did was choose to accept Christ trying to save me from drowning, and so I think that if we have our foundations on something like that will never change, God's love will never change, what Christ did for us will never change, then I think that we're on safe grounds, and we're not a slave to our impulses, and we're not a slave to our feelings or some emotional high that we get, Instead, we willingly choose to give our lives towards Jesus Christ for what he has done for us on the cross. So that's all I really had. I hope that if you guys got anything from it, then that's good. Also, so you guys know, it's Power Hour once again. So I'll be responding to every single comment down below. Any comment or questions you guys have, leave them down below, and I'll respond to every single one that I can get to within the hour. So if you guys haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe, and also check out the links in the description. And go ahead and start your comments right now, and I'll talk to you guys down below. All right. Oh, I almost forgot. What do you mean?